car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
Good to see you all among the living. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talon Mix. It is a Smallville recap podcast normally. This week, Zach, sing the song real fast.
No, not Smallville.
The vibes here today suck. They suck, guys. It's all... I feel like this is we've hit the point. The culmination of not just this Batman series, we still have Batman movies to go, but the larger macro conversation we've been having around the Batman and Superman movies. And it's culminated in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. That is the full title of this film as it appears on the fucking title card of this movie. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've been building towards this since before we did any of the movies. We've been talking about this movie. This is our big bad.
This is the final boss.
This is the villain that they hint at the end of season 1 and the end of season 2. And you see a little more and a little more. And then this is the showdown. This is the big showdown.
This is it. And it won. Dude, it...
The fact that we had to watch it won.
We talk a lot about movies and silly things on the show. Smallville is a show we love to make fun of. We make fun of things that we like, we don't like. We have a relationship with things that I think confuse people sometimes. Of like, we talked a lot of shit about Dark Knight Rises, a movie we're both like 2 thumbs up, good movie.
More than that, we're like love. It's a favorite. It's a favorite.
So let me remove all ambiguity here. And I'm speaking purely for myself, right? I hate this movie. This movie fills me with hate. I have no positive feelings about this movie. You have said, and I think you're correct, it's not in the conversation for the worst movie ever made. It is too competent. It is too competently made. It is the movie I hate the most. I hate this movie.
I think we're going to be separating this conversation into 2 sections. We'll be going back and forth, but 2 categories of, what the movie chooses to be. Mm-hmm. And how we feel about that, and then whether it is successful even at what it's trying to do.
Right.
And I think the hatred that we feel comes from the first category, and the second category, the movie has a little bit more going for it because there's so many talented people involved, and it seems like they're all putting in maximum effort. It's just that the original decision was so misguided. I don't think this is among the worst movies ever made, but it might be the biggest miscalculation in film history.
It's certainly on a studio level, like with a huge IP like this.
Right. They just recently Disney released the numbers, and the amount of profit they've made off of Marvel is like $13 billion.
Jesus Christ.
There's no reason the DC universe could not have been the same.
Especially with like Batman and Superman, the 2 of the most recognizable characters. Marvel started with fucking Iron Man.
Right, yeah. Batman and Superman are the 2.
Your character, yeah.
They are, and if this movie had worked, then maybe the rest of those characters rise to the stature of the Marvel. You know what I mean? Like your Green Lanterns, your whatever. But this movie was so bad, or so poorly received, that it threw everything into disarray. And I mean, it's all based on this colossal misunderstanding of what made the Nolan movies so successful.
Yes.
They were successful because they were pulse-pounding entertainments.
Correct.
Not because they were grim and serious.
No one, I mean, I'm not going to say no one, because it is what we were articulating at the time. Like, they're dark and serious.
Right.
So they took it too literally, not examining past that. They're like, well, they're also just real tight fucking big budget action blockbusters.
Yes, and they're fucking fun.
Fun as fuck. It's and The Dark Knight Rises. You know, you can probably get this sense from the discussion we had on it. That movie works by moving so fast you kind of can't realize it's stupid. Whether or not it succeeds at that, it's before you can be like, all the cops, Christopher Nolan is dangling another set of keys and it's like, look over here.
Right, yes. Mm-hmm.
This movie does not, dude. You just gotta sit with it. You gotta sit with it, and it sucks.
It is jarring going from maybe the most propulsive movies ever made in the Dark Knight movies to this, which is essentially like watching an old man jog in place for 3 hours and then pass out.
So it's worth noting we're watching these movies in a little bit of a strange order. The true follow-up to The Dark Knight Rises is Man of Steel, which we talked about many months ago, and you can find. Yes. So if you haven't listened to that, that's maybe an important bit of context here, because this is a sequel to Man of Steel, not the follow-up to The Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
And Man of Steel feels less of a stumble, like just a that's a movie that wasn't as bad as I remembered, you know.
No, I think it was rushed because of some legal shit, like they were going to lose the rights if they didn't go fast. So it was they didn't take enough passes at the script, which they should have. The dialogue's pretty rough, and maybe it's too grim, serious, doesn't have quite enough fun in it, but it's basically a story.
It does have a beginning, a middle, and end, a rising action that generally Superman then reaches a high point and then a low point, and then the third act.
It's a fantastic score. Some great visuals. It feels like Zack Snyder is on a little bit of a tighter leash in that one, maybe. So I actually like that movie. It's kind of a tepid like, but I do like it. It's not a disaster.
No.
And then it's almost like Nolan said, okay, I'm off. Fly, little one. Go. And then no one said, no. You don't just get to hand this off to Zack Snyder now.
I'm putting sex trafficking in this.
and branding. Shout out to Allison Mack.
Yeah.
Connection.
It's so. Can we I feel like we have to start at the very beginning here. Can we, because we did a whole fucking probably 3 hours on it on Man of Steel, but I think the real brief version is Warner Brothers after Dark Knight Rises is like, we need more money now. And so they take Superman and they're like, let's Christopher Nolan, the other big guy. So they dump Christopher Nolan a bunch of money. They would love for him to direct. He doesn't want to do that. So Christopher Nolan appears to be responsible for Zack Snyder, almost handpicked, largely based on Snyder's enthusiasm.
It was Snyder, and Aronofsky really wanted to do it, but he said he needed to take some more time with the script, which, yes. Correct. Aronofsky's not a 10 out of 10. Like, he's not a home run every time, but like much better. Much better batting average. Yeah. For me anyway,
yeah. So
Nolan and Goyer are like, hey, we came up with a hook. I still don't know what their hook was, because it just seems like a Superman movie.
Yeah, right. But a little different. But it's kind of deserty instead of icy this time on Krypton. End of list.
Yeah.
So Man of Steel happens. It happens. I think it was a modest success, enough to certainly snowball into another, but not a Man of Steel 2.
It was the Solo thing. Not quite as bad as Solo, but like it made a ton of money, but not nearly as much as they were hoping. Right?
Yeah. So Man of Steel 2 didn't happen. It's
This was Man of Steel 2, Batman v Superman.
Correct. Yeah. But it was certainly a let's put fucking Batman in this thing.
Yes. I mean, that's almost embarrassing to be like, okay, we did the Batman trilogy, was a smash. All right, now we're going to do the Superman trilogy, and then we'll get extended universe, and they get one Superman movie, and they're like, all right, we got to bring in Batman.
We got to bring in
Batman.
Break classic case of emergency. We got to.
Batman's like, fuck, I thought I was going to get a break, dude. I just did 3 fucking movies
you're in.
for you.
You're in, man. You're in.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, but I get to brand people.
I'm mean now, and I use guns. So, oh man, it's worth noting this. What's happening at Marvel is also worth noting. They're printing money. The Avengers has happened by this point.
Yes.
We're many years past. We're in like phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
By this point, because Avengers coincides with Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
and Warner Brothers is.
Yeah, we're making this movie the same time. I mean, they've already done Avengers 2. I mean, this movie comes out the same year as Civil War.
Oh wow! Right, a very similar styled film and a much better one.
Yes, yeah, a fun if forgettable film. This is a not fun if forgettable film. I mean, Brian, even the defenders of this movie, I think, would admit it's not fun.
No, yes, agreed. So
the difference is they seem to think that is some kind of plus. That it's not fun.
That means it's better. I think
it's more adult. Okay,
right?
If it's not fun,
this movie is constantly feels like a little boy just coming up like it's for adults. It's for adults. It's not for kids. It's for adults.
This guy, Brian. It's the only thing you need to know about Zack Snyder is that he pitched an R-rated Star Wars movie to Kathleen Kennedy.
Jesus Christ.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? What is your
fucking deal, dude?
This is even before Disney owned it. Star Wars is a family thing. It's like older family, but like middle school, right, maybe. Right. But it's not R-rated. What do you think you can add to those movies with an R rating? They need more threat of rape. Is that what we need? Like your Rebel Moon?
Oh God, Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon.
What would have been in the R-rated Star Wars, Brian?
I mean, I think it would have been Rebel Moon.
Star Wars.
It would have been Rebel Moon. Yeah. It would have been Rebel Moon, and I don't want. I'm done now. I was like, we gotta do Rebel Moon. We gotta do Rebel Moon. I'm good. I am leaving this where it is. I can't do it anymore. I am just at the end. I am divorcing. I know we have 2 more Zack Snyder films ahead in this series. Well, 1.5 of a Zack Snyder film.
Yeah. We gotta. Yes.
I don't remember Justice League being even the Zack Snyder Justice League being as bad as this one.
No, because they're trying to have some fun.
Right. Even at 4 hours, it's not as bad.
They let Affleck do like charming Batman.
So I guess that's maybe the next spot. I could talk about how I don't like Zack Snyder all fucking day, and have before, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're dividing it into it's the misguidedness, and then your normal like Zack Snyder kind of doesn't know what he's doing thing.
Right. It's not just that this movie's a bummer, you know. It's like, we're not talking about just the tone. I was laughing for a lot of people. I would say most people. A movie is just a fun way to kill some time. It's like me with a video game. I like a video game. I'll play a video game, but I'm killing an hour, you know? And that's most people's relationship with movies. Thereby, their general thought process doesn't go much beyond the literal plot of the movie. The script, kind of, for lack of a better word. What happens in the movie may as well be the movie. Batman does this, Superman does this scene happens, that scene happens, the end. I haven't even fucking gotten to that. I'm not even worried yet about what the characters do in the movie. That's where we've talked about trying to find a summary of this movie that brings us through it the way kind of we usually do. I don't give a fuck about what happens in this movie. That is so beyond the point.
Yes, and I guess it boils down to, for me, subject matter is not a measure of quality. Like, if I were to name my favorite movies of all time, they would be like Jaws, Speed, The Fugitive, movies that are not making complex statements about the state of the world or mankind's place in it or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So when I say that superhero movies should not be trying to make complex statements about the state of the world and mankind's place in it, that is not an insult. That is not saying Superman, they're not good.
Right.
I think that these movies should be for young people, but like up to and including early 20s, maybe. And they are there for very broad ideas about good and bad and how to do the right thing. And you can sort of introduce complex topics, but like on a very surface level way, because if you dig too deep into superhero stuff, you find out that it's all fucking nonsense. And
it's generally fodder for cheaply printed 5 to 16 color magazine rack magazines at the grocery store.
The foundation is not built to support that type of examination.
Right.
Unless you're doing a satire like Watchmen or something like
film
that.
I'm not a fan of.
Well, I'm talking about the book.
It's
talking about the book Watchmen. He tried to do that just like this movie, where he's just playing it straight.
Just yep. It's worth noting, Watchmen, Alan Moore didn't like superheroes that much, didn't think they were cool, was kind of over it. And that's reflective through Watchmen.
Right. And that's the thing, is that the whole point of Watchmen is saying this is kind of all no good. Whereas in this movie, the defenders will say that it's saying something similar, but also it's saying that superheroes are awesome and slow motion punching is really cool.
I have a point about this, but I'll save that kind of for when we're talking about it a little more in specifics. It's the fuck. I lost my thought, dude. I'm so mad at this movie. This is the first Batman movie I didn't see in theaters since Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. This is the first one I didn't see because I didn't like Man of Steel.
I saw it in the theater because I'm a masochist. I was excited for this movie, even though everything I heard about it made me more and more worried. Like, they announced it was going to be Batman versus Superman movie, and I was like, okay, sure, all right, let's go. And then they were like, Ben Affleck, and I was like,
It's an interesting choice.
no, I like Ben Affleck. I just remember being like, why is he doing that? He just climbed out of the gutter, like his career was in the shitter, and he worked his way back by doing this like sort of more prestige-y type stuff.
He's by this point, I believe, directed like 3-ish movies now that are all critically well received. Oscar.
He had just won an
movies.
Oscar,
right?
For Argo.
For Argo.
Yeah.
The movie won the Oscar. He didn't win for director, but
he wasn't even nominated.
He produced it, so yes, he had won an Oscar.
But yeah, so I remember being surprised about that, and then the first real like, oh no, was when I heard the fucking title.
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Worth noting. So yeah, this seems like as good as any. It seems like Snyder wanted this to be a Justice League movie, and that makes sense considering it's all set more than a story here. These are the perils of when you don't really have a story. You're just trying to set pieces up for but in 10 movies it's going to be really cool. That's not anything. So, I got mad again. What the fuck was I, Zach? What the fuck was I saying?
Brian, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
So there were some additional titles here. It was things like Justice League Origins, Justice League: The Beginning, blah 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 blah. And then Zach, what's that one that It's like I read this out loud to my wife, who just went, "Fuck you."
It's funny, like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I remember thinking this is the worst title I've ever heard, and then reading the runner-up title, being like, "Oh, okay, it's not."
Please hit it.
It is Son of Sun, comma
SON of SUN,
comma Night of Night.
You can
K Night
there.
of N Night. That can't be something anyone was actually considering, right?
You didn't bring that to people with money, right? You can't.
They're like, oh yes, we're combining Batman and Superman, our two most valuable characters, and we're not going to put their names in the title.
See, but that's cool and prestigious, Zach, because that's
my biggest complaint about the title is the V instead of VS.
What do you remember about that? There was a Zack Snyder had a note there.
Yeah, well, his whole thing, and it's like the most Zack Snyder thing is he's like, I think that lets people know that it's not just a versus movie. It's not your normal versus movie. And it's
shut up. Shut your fucking mouth. You're dumb, stupid, idiot, fucking mouth.
It's not your normal versus movie. Oh my gosh. It's just like, it's the perfect, like, it's a little different. It's the V, so that means it's more prestigious. No, it makes it sound like a court case. That's the only time we do the V thing.
It makes you sound so fucking stupid.
Batman v Superman, in the case of Dawn of Justice. It's so stupid.
It's so fucking stupid. And I recognize, I hear us right now. I hear us, two dudes on the internet be like, "Oh, this superhero movie is not my favorite of the batch." And I fucking hear it, and I can't stop it. That's how pure this hateful energy is just vibrating out of me.
No, look, there are a lot of people who love this movie, and I'm totally being sincere when I say I'm glad they love it and I'm glad they get joy out of it. And that's great. The only part I take issue with is the people, and Zack Snyder's guilty of this, who are like, the reason you don't like it is because you don't get it.
So
to which I say, no one has misunderstood this fucking movie.
It's very, very broad. This is as deep as a swimming pool, guys. So, to that point, like, I have absolutely no quarrel, no issue with, like, fuck you, I like it, man. I don't know what to say. I have a good time with it. I like it. I have it with, I admitted, I like all 3 of the Peter Jackson Hobbit movies. I won't go to bat for any of them, but I like the Middle Earth. I like the fucking Hobbits. I like the fucking dwarves. There's a big dragon here. I didn't see most of it. I only saw the first one in a theater. I watched the other 2 on HBO. I had a good time. The Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movies, better than no Ninja Turtles movies.
We both liked The Flash. We both had fun with The Flash.
Had fun with The Flash. You know what? It was all just a gimmick to get Michael Keaton back in the Batman costume, and good enough. Good. I had a big thing of popcorn, big thing of soda. I'm having a good time. I think I was a little high. That helped. I totally get all of that. That's fine. I have no issues there. If you're telling me this movie is secretly brilliant, you're a fucking moron.
Well,
and I'm also not even counting 3 beers deep at the bar. Like, no, you don't get it. It's brilliant. That, you know what I mean.
Yes. Like, you're not digging deep enough in this Zack Snyder movie.
No, let me be clear. I fucking get it. I get that there's nothing to fucking get here. And
no, I get that the things you are saying, straw man defender of this movie,
totally what we're doing here, by the way, just absolute straw man,
are things that they were going for, but that doesn't mean they succeeded or they did the things necessary to make that clear to anyone who's not being overly generous.
It's the I believe we've dug up some Letterboxd reviews, correct? Like, just
yes. I mean,
we'll get to them.
We'll wait.
It's I have to. I apologize, everyone. I know this is going to be a mess. This is a mess of an episode. This is leaning a little closer to our Dark Knight episode than our Dark Knight Rises episode. I think in organization, that's just how this is going to be. We're processing right now. I'm still processing what just happened to me. I think I have not seen Joker, the Todd Phillips movie, since even before it came out. We saw a screening before it came out.
Oh, wow.
I did not enjoy. I know, very cool. My wife is cool. I am not. My wife gets to see things early, and I get to come along as her husband.
Oh yeah.
So I did not enjoy Joker by any means. I think there's more going on in that movie than there is here. Is that crazy?
No, it's not crazy. I think it's more competent. It's got a more consistent tone.
It's a tighter script, and it's not a great. It's an okay script, I think.
But I will say, I think I like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice more than you do. I think if you took any random scene from this movie, any 5 minutes, and showed it to me before I had seen the whole movie, I would have probably thought, oh, that is a piece of a pretty decent movie. Like, at the very least, I'd like 3 stars, between 3 and 4 stars. Like, that looks like it could be, because there's individual sequences work very well in this movie.
Sure.
They just don't
necessarily agree, but sure.
fit with each other.
Yeah. You know what I think my deep, real problem with this movie is? is I feel like I'm looking back at my 17-year-old self who would have loved this movie. Loved is maybe strong, but I definitely would have seen it a couple of times and would have had a lot to say about it that would have been more generous. Like there's nothing to say about this movie. We'll now proceed to be here for 2 hours, but it's I think my hatred for this is a little bit self-hatred.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I feel like that that has been a constant throughout our entire podcast.
Yes.
And,
the show has been a way to process our own geeky self-loathing.
yes. Yeah. 100%. Oh my gosh. There's just. Do you have more before we dive into
I think I do. Just real
recap?
Fast. Yeah, the recap's going to be real broad this week because we watched the Ultimate Edition. We should set that up. So basically, this came out in theaters in 2016, and it was bad. It was received bad. And now this whole series, we've been doing the theatrically released films. We, for some reason, didn't do that this time. Whose idea was that?
There were no director's cuts of any previous Batman movies until this one.
Correct.
The reason we did it, Brian texted me before he started the movie, and what did you say? You said, I'm about to begin the 3-hour ultimate cut, you fucking maniac, or something like that.
Yeah, just this was a pure. Normally I have the masochistic ideas. This was all you.
Here's the reason why. Because we had to watch the version that the defenders of the movie say is the good version. Because if we watch the theatrical, people would say, yeah, but you didn't watch the way it was meant to be seen, or whatever.
Sure. Yes, that is. And yes. And we fucking saw it. Can we divert real fast to talk about the Zack Snyder Justice League will be the real hammered home of this bit, but the Zack Snyder theatrical release and then the director's cut pipeline that happens. And if it's okay, I would like for a moment to talk about something that I like to talk about a lot: professional wrestling. Now, professional wrestling is it has its origins in carny fucking culture. It was an old carnival show that has slowly grown into the weird empire that it is. And the important thing to note on it is that it is a very unique mixture of athleticism, theatrics, and lies. And all blending together into this weird little soap opera that plays out every week. Now, in wrestling, there is something called kayfabe. Kayfabe is an old carny term that sort of means the reality of the world of wrestling. So in kayfabe, the Undertaker is an undead zombie man. In reality, he's a guy named Mark, who's just a big man from Texas. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of what wrestling fans like to do is figuring out what's kayfabe and what's a work. A work is in kayfabe. When someone is injured, say they're just taking a couple of weeks off television, they haven't really been hurt, that's called a work, as opposed to a shoot, which is reality.
Okay.
They are right now. So as of Rebel Moon, they are saying things like, oh, well, on Netflix, we're putting out the Netflix version, and then we're going to let an unrestrained Zack Snyder version come out. This is a work. This whole process has been turned into a work. It is a lie.
Yeah, it is 100%.
Absolute 100% lie that you fucking marks are eating up. I'm mad again, Zach. I'm getting mad again.
What bothers me is using it as a crutch to say, oh, it would have been better if they let me do what I want to do.
And that's the whole thing. It's what it is every time. And it creates this fucking narrative every time that, oh, this version's bad, but his version will be better.
Right.
And then they fucking fall into it every fucking time.
I want to say with this movie, it's especially absurd to me. I mean, one of the writers, Chris Terrio, even said that the theatrical version was sabotage. If the studio comes to you and says, hey, Psycho, we can't release your 3-hour Batman versus Superman movie, and you say, okay, how much do I need to cut? And they're like a half hour. And you say, okay. And then you go to the cutting room and you don't cut out the totally extraneous post-apocalyptic dream sequence.
That's at least 11 minutes.
You don't get to be mad that the movie makes less sense. You could have kept in the stuff that made more sense and lost once again, completely extraneous dream sequence that lifts right out of the fucking movie.
Perfectly. There's no...
And you know why he kept
no reason for it aside to set down a movie you're not going to get to make in 10 fucking movies?
Because it was really cool. It looked cool. I like that sequence. I want to watch that movie way more than this fucking movie.
I would love to watch that movie more than... So we'll get into it. We'll get into the specifics of it. But yeah, there's a fucking 11 to 15 minute fucking post-apocalyptic dream sequence in this fucking movie. Oh, God.
Right. But you could have taken that out, and then the movie still would have been much more coherent. But you didn't, so shut the fuck up. And then, of course, the Justice League one is more fair because they totally changed this fucking movie.
Right.
But again, did you think they were going to let you release a 4-hour movie, bro?
That was not... People were generous to the Snyder Cut, which, don't get me wrong, was partially it was the pandemic. We didn't have a lot going on.
Right.
If the Snyder Cut, quote unquote, which is not, we'll talk about it when we do it, but is not his intended movie. That was a lot of reshoots, a lot of like things to figure out. It's
literally everything they had. This is like, we're just going to put all the footage we took.
And then some additional new stuff. That's not something that would have been released in theaters ever, and no one would have liked it if it did. No, if you were trapped in a theater for that fucking movie, you wouldn't be like, it's a singular vision.
Yeah, you thought fucking Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, was long. Wait till you sit through the Justice League movie in one sitting. Brian, can I ask you a question that's going to make you mad? That's going to enrage you?
Do it. I'm going to have a heart attack while recording this. Zach, you're going to have to watch. Emily's not going to do it. You're going to have to fly here, get the tape, get the recording, and then release this. Zach, I swear to you, tell this to Emily if it happens. If I have a fucking heart attack and die during this recording, you release it. You release it. Release me dying on microphone. I'm so fucking mad about this movie.
Send it to Zack Snyder. Here's the question. Are you ready for the question?
Yes, I'm ready for the question.
When it comes time for us to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, are we going to watch the color one or the black and white one?
Justice is gray? Oh, God. Oh, God. I think...
We're watching color.
I
just wanted to bring up the Justice is gray.
But I think that actually ties into sort of a larger point here that we're going to make, kind of about the tone or the weird chip on Zack Snyder's shoulder here. It's not just wanting this movie to be prestige, not wanting these movies to be prestige. So deeply afraid you won't think it's prestige. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, it's the whole thing of
classy movies are black and white, so Justice League has a black and white version, and that's the better version because better, classier movies are in black and white. Why is it in black and white? You fucking asshole!
It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing right there. That's just a microcosm right there of that makes it more important, right? Black and white. Oh, if it's serious and grim and no fun, that makes it more important, right?
Right.
No. Black and white movies can be shitty too.
Many of them were.
Yeah.
Many of them are just lost to time. We don't have them anymore because it was like, there's no point keeping this.
No one bothered to keep them. Yes. They used to make so many movies, Brian. So many.
There is, and thankfully, film archiving is much, so there. It's almost impossible to lose a movie now. Not impossible, but almost.
Right.
Do we have to keep all of them? I don't know if every streaming movie has to be like.
Like when we start running out of space, we got to throw out one of those Justice Leagues.
One of them's got to go. One of them's got to go.
We're starting with the black and white one. That's the first one.
That's the first one to fucking go. That's the first one to go.
Because you know what you can do, Brian, if you want? You can just turn off the color on your TV and you can just watch the movie. That's
effectively all they did. That's all they did. So, all right. We'd like to go into like how I'm really very interested in the making of movies, and I like to spend a lot of time in those things. I don't have anything. There's nothing to talk about. Like it's just, it's also Junkie XL is here. Ben Affleck's here. Zach, you're more of I don't have an ear for music at all. I just, I'm like, hey, that's the Batman score is pretty good.
All the stuff in it, except for, I would say the Batman music and maybe the Wonder Woman theme, and this is good. Like I think the music is actually pretty good, except for Hans Zimmer going into this because he composed Man of Steel. He came out and said, I don't feel like I can do another Batman because I already did my Batman music. So he brought on Junkie XL to collaborate so he would do the Batman music. It is junk, extra large junk is the Batman music in this for sure. It's just blah. It's just nothing.
I can't hum it in my head at all. The Wonder Woman theme's not bad. The Aquaman theme's not bad. I would actually go so far. I really like the Wonder Woman movie.
But literally every other Batman theme until this point is catchy and memorable. And now this is nothing.
Nothing. It's not in my head at all.
I still got goosebumps whenever I heard that Man of Steel theme pop up, though, in this movie.
It is good. It's funny. I keep kind of forgetting Superman's like in this movie.
He barely is. He's in it, but he's not making choices, really. He's just like, this Batman sounds like kind of a dick.
Right. Okay. So I have the Wikipedia open, and I think rather than try to really go beat for beat through this, I'm going to read 2 paragraphs of it. And then if we have to get more zoomed in, I'm going to read 2 whole paragraphs. We're going to go real broad kind of on the plot here. And then we can go back through it and talk about scenes in there that stood out to us. So 2 paragraphs of reading. Here we go. In a flashback to his childhood, Bruce Wayne runs from his parents' funeral. He falls into a cave where a circling vortex of bats elevates him back to the surface. In the present, 18 months after his cataclysmic battle with General Zod in Metropolis, Superman has become a controversial figure. Bruce is now a billionaire who has operated in Gotham City as the masked vigilante Batman for 20 years. Having witnessed the battle in person, he sees Superman as an existential threat to humanity. Clark Kent, Superman's civilian identity, seeks to condemn Batman's form of justice in Daily Planet articles. Bruce learns that Russian weapons trafficker Anatoly, Russian name, has been contacting LexCorp mogul Lex Luthor. Luthor attempts to persuade Senator June Finch to allow him to import kryptonite discovered in the aftermath of Zod's terraforming attempt, so that it can be used as a deterrent against future Kryptonian threats. She declines, but Luthor makes alternative plans with Finch's subordinate, who grants him access to Zod's corpse and the Kryptonian scout ship. Is that what happened? That is a very, I'm not envious of trying to summarize this movie, because that is a very concise vibe of very long scenes, many of which don't happen. Yes. Like nothing happens in them. Can I talk about wrestling again?
Anytime. So
I do think wrestling is a pretty fantastic way to break down how a story works. In a wrestling match specifically in the WWE style, is broken down into scenes or spots. A spot in a wrestling match is a big thing. A guy gets flipped. The guy goes through the table. Something the wrestlers were like, and then I'm going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. The cool thing that happened is a spot. That is a scene in a wrestling match. Now, if one spot is in a corner of a match, a corner of the ring, and then the next thing they're planning is going to happen in the other corner of the ring, the wrestlers have to get to the other corner of the ring. Now we have an opportunity to demonstrate character. The big guy, he's a monster. So of course they can't just walk over to the other corner of the ring. Maybe the big guy grabs the good guy by his hair and drags him over to the, and we've demonstrated the bad guy is a big, strong monster. Scenes in a story should either be a big thing that moves the narrative forward, like a spot, or demonstrate character. And when we're demonstrating character, it should still kind of be getting us towards the next moment.
Ideally both. I mean? Ideally both is happening. Ideally
both. And I feel like this movie frequently does neither.
Yeah. There is, conservative estimate, an hour's worth of wheel spinning in this movie. So basically the movie is the middle section is Superman kind of learning about Batman and being like, ooh, I don't like that. He's going too far, kind of. And Batman being bombarded with reasons why he doesn't like Superman, I guess. And it's all a waste of time because all the Superman stuff is a waste of time because he doesn't end up fighting Batman because he doesn't like him. It's because Lex Luthor has kidnapped Lois Lane and says, if you don't go over there, I'm going to kill her. And then, by the way, he still doesn't want to fight Batman. He's trying to talk to him. So you don't need to, apparently you didn't need to build up any animus from Clark towards Batman. That was all a waste of time. And then the Batman side of it, you have a real Revenge of the Sith problem where they couldn't come up with a reason good enough for him to want to kill Superman. So they give you like 20 bad reasons.
Yeah. I was going to bring up George Lucas, writer and director George Lucas. How do you... I think there is a Star Wars prequel problem here. I think this is way worse than any of those three movies.
Oh, yeah, no, all three of those movies are much better than this movie.
Yes, but I think there are similar philosophical problems with the scripts.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? Is this too controversial here? Of like, I don't think the prequels are tight, good scripts.
No, I'll bite.
And I guess I probably should have. I came into this fight not really prepared. Now I'm like, oh.
No.
But I do think there's a similar loosey-goosiness kind of here to where just kind of a lot of things are happening, but they're not adding up to much.
No. We got 100 reasons for Batman to kill Superman, and some of them are contradictory. We're just... If Batman is so dumb and so mean as to fall for this manipulation I still don't understand from Lex Luthor, then he's not a character I want to root for.
Right.
Batman is a guy that exists on the edge. Once he goes over the edge and crosses the line and starts branding people, I'm out. I'm out on him.
And I'm not saying like the branding isn't kind of interesting, but it reeks more of like, that's a cool badass thing Batman does now.
It's, all the defenders of this movie and Snyder himself will be like, I wanted to show violence, the real consequences so that it wasn't glorified. And it's like, well, that's not how you show it. That's not how you do it.
Right. And
it feels like you're masturbating while you edit this stuff together.
I feel like Zack Snyder's violence has there's a lot of ways and reasons to show violence in movies. You brought up Killers of the Flower Moon. Violence is sudden, rapid, and horrifying in Killers of the Flower Moon. In a lot of Scorsese's work, it is usually a moment of quiet calm interrupted by sudden, horrible punctuations of violence, and it's meant to stir you out of a certain complacency. And that's one of many valid ways to use violence. Zack Snyder's only mode is violence is cool and sexy.
Right.
The text might be saying something else, but the imagery is saying this is cool and sexy.
100%. That's perfectly. Couldn't put it better myself. And what I would just add to that is, I think it's okay to do sexy, fun violence. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Right.
Don't
piss in a jar and tell me it's Granny's peach tea.
Yeah, don't do slow motion. This is cool violence and tell me you're Martin Scorsese, because you're not. That's not what you're doing.
Don't fucking have Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Sorry, it's not Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is Thomas Wayne. In the opening intro. Don't have this fucking bit where you have the guy with the gun hooked under Martha's pearls and then shoots her in the throat in slow motion.
That was the first note I made. He can't not make sexy violence. He just can't do it.
That's the thing. And like, if you're going to do sexy violence, do sexy monolithic violence. But like, don't then tell me it's not supposed to be fetishistic.
That is out of all the Bruce Wayne's parents' deaths we've seen, that is the most fetishistic by a mile.
It's out of 300, It's
it's in slow fucking motion.
This is where I also struggle with visionary director Zack Snyder. It comes up a lot of like, oh, well, Zack Snyder's visuals are great. But I think they're great, quote unquote, in like a music video kind of way, not in like.
They're unique. I mean, some of them are quite striking, and
striking's a good word.
When 300 came out, I think you and I were both like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool." I don't think either of us were like, "This is a masterpiece," but we're like, "That's different."
Like, it was a cool movie. I haven't seen it since then, probably, but it's a cool movie.
And I did not appreciate it during my most recent rewatch, but it was unique looking, and so if that's your jam, great. So okay, let's see notes. We open with that masturbatory death of Bruce Wayne's
it's our first title sequence though in a while. It's worked into like the narrative there, but it's our first title sequence since Batman and Robin.
Yeah, all right, we're bringing it back.
I'd put this in one of the. It's. My gut is to put it into one of the lower ranking ones, right? It's as far as title sequences go so far in Batman movies, because it doesn't fit them. But like on its own, sure, it's compelling, and like these very striking images that set a mood. So I don't know if like in a vacuum it's bad. It's more just like icky.
Yes. So then we get what is actually probably a pretty smart decision. I think most people agree a smart sort of plot point is to use the backlash that came after the ending of Man of Steel, where he's destroying all these buildings and shit. There was a backlash. People were like, all that damage, like what about all the people and stuff? And to use that as motivation for Batman.
So we see Bruce Wayne at ground zero of this alien attack and this Superman battle, and we see him on the ground saving people. And I have so many thoughts about this scene.
Like I was going to say, it's a smart idea in theory. In practice, it grosses me out a little to see 9/11, but Batman saving people.
Yeah. It's
the image of all the ash like coming forward and him running into it is just made me want to vomit a little bit.
And I'm not saying there's a lot of Spielberg's War of the Worlds is filled with 9/11 imagery.
Yes.
But it once again feels less fetishistic.
It's not like, look at this cool guy do these heroic things. It's like, this is scary and awful.
It feels like Spielberg processing crazy imagery we all saw on the news, you know? He just has millions of dollars to do it. People tend to like this scene. They think they point this scene out as a high point in the movie. Script wise, so the whole thing here is that Batman's become angry and jaded. Wouldn't this be a better point to show like Batman before that? And I guess it is, don't get me wrong, but like I don't know if we are using and introducing Batman effectively as Bruce Wayne running through Gotham. I feel like this time would be better served showing Batman doing Batman stuff, not angry and bitter, and that we see later in the movie.
No, I 100% agree, because that was one of my issues is we don't in this world, we don't ever get to see him not be shitty Batman. So
I'm just introducing me like, why would I give a shit about shitty Batman?
Yeah, he just seems like an asshole the whole time.
Right.
And gosh, this fucking movie.
And it's like the Dark Knight Returns isn't enough, guys. That's not enough.
No, that doesn't make it good.
No.
And also, The Dark Knight Returns is funny. Like whether you can stomach the political shit or not, Frank Miller's kind of nuts, but it's like it also is a fun romp. It's
very much so.
Funny, and it's a joy to read. It's not like a slog.
They made a direct-to-DVD animated Dark Knight Returns, and Peter Weller is Batman, and that is fantastically funny.
I've seen it.
I don't remember if it was any good. I think I half watched it one night. I think a lot of those movies are like fine adaptations of comic book arcs.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine. Yeah, it's pretty faithful adaptation. But yeah. This is the Watchmen thing all over again, though. It's we're just taking the aesthetics, but we're not really. I mean, they're not trying though as much here to do the Dark Knight Returns.
No, it's clearly just he likes the vibe of it. He likes how dark and serious that was, but it's not. It's not Dark Knight Returns in any way. Yeah, if anything, like Nolan captured that more.
Yes.
Yeah. Tim Burton captured that more.
And I can't believe the studio let him make this decision, but the only reason he had older Batman was so that he could do the Dark Knight Returns imagery, that vibe. Like the studio's trying to reboot this shit. I can't believe they let him cast 45-year-old Batman. That's just nuts.
And it is funny how I did not come up with this on my own. This is I think Mr. Sunday Movies is who articulated this thought. But it's funny here how Batman is still also everything. Like, he's old, jaded, tired, drinking too much Batman, Bruce Wayne, but also he's still Batman at the Bruce Wayne playboy. Like he's all of it. He's everything. It's all the stuff. So there's no goal here. There's no larger through line here that's interesting or say. That's the thing of we were laughing at a Letterboxd review, and that's I people are allowed to think whatever they want, and they're allowed to post whatever they want about a movie. But they were talking about the I don't know. Do we want to read the whole thing? Do we want to read the segment of it, or I can approximate it?
I'll read it. Hell yeah!
Great. Yeah, just hit the relevant bits about the opening, maybe.
Are you
the
talking
motifs?
About the motif? Well, this is the first part.
We won't say the username here or anything like.
Yeah, no. This is a person who wrote a long entry about the movie, and they said instead of glorifying violence or presenting it as spectacle, the film has the audience confront it as the characters do. No,
opposite.
The film also uniquely takes advantage of the cinematic medium by showing rather than telling, weaving the themes through subtle motifs.
Opposite.
And the characters' unspoken mindsets. Well, some shit has to be spoken, Brian. Here's one of the motifs that at his parents' funeral, Bruce runs away from the pain and his surrogate father, Alfred, and falls. To emphasize the motif, everything in this scene falls. Leaves fall, snow falls, sparks fall, bullet shells fall, Thomas falls, pearls fall, Martha falls, and finally, Bruce falls. When Bruce falls, the camera turns upside down, showing that Bruce is not seeing things the right way any longer.
So, I think this person brings up, yes, they did connect some dots in that's some good beginning cinema studies. You found some patterns in and maybe Snyder consciously or subconsciously was going for that. That is a neat little visual jiggery-do. It doesn't add up to anything. It doesn't mean anything.
No. No.
It's meaningless. It's all meaningless. And that's where I'm really stuck. Like, this adds up
Brian,
to nothing.
Let's step backward real quick, because I don't think the idea of having a Batman versus Superman movie was ever a good idea.
No.
I think a Batman... You could do Batman versus Superman in the way they did it in the animated series, where they meet and they're not sure about each other at first, and maybe they have a confrontation, but then they team up, which, someone would be like, oh, that's what they do in this movie. No, but we get 2 hours before the team up.
Right.
No one wants to see their heroes stumble around making stupid decisions and on a collision course to hurt each other for 2 hours.
It's what I know. For 2 hours, I know more than both of the main characters of this movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is, I think that's part of maybe why I just mentally bounce off this movie like a fucking wall. Like I put my phone in the other room and I literally just mentally still just went elsewhere while watching this movie. And you're right. It's 2 hours of like, well, eventually they'll just catch up to where I am.
In the meantime, look at this branding. Look at this dream sequence.
It's so there's a scene early on that I think, as you mentioned, the branding. We got this big, expensive, stupidly expensive Metropolis attack scene, right? And Bruce Wayne is weaving through the streets. Buildings are collapsing. Bruce Wayne is saving people, and he's trying to get people out of the Wayne building, the Wayne Enterprises building in Metropolis, who are just waiting for Bruce Wayne's call to go, I guess. It's a little gross, maybe 9/11, not allegory, but like
he calls these people his family because they're his work family. That's symbolism, Brian. That's a motif.
Oh, I see.
He's going to lose his family again, just like the way he lost his first family.
Oh, just the same way. Just an alien building collapse. So there's
the building's
Jack,
about to collapse.
and there's Jack on the phone, and Jack is like, "Boss says we gotta go." And then while he's on the phone with Bruce Wayne, is this in the theatrical cut? I don't. I've seen.
I haven't seen the theatrical
one.
since the theater. I have no idea.
This strikes me as the kind of thing that's in the R-rated cut, but it's and then God, creator of the universe, have mercy on my soul as the building collapses, which is the most strikingly like, this is for adults. This is sad and serious. And it's dumb as a fucking bag of bricks, dude. Like I've been stuck on that moment for days. It's so... I have no problem with melodrama especially in my comic book movies, right? Go for melodrama. I think Spider-Man 2 is the best comic book movie ever made. Melodrama. But don't, I think you nailed it with like do you piss on my leg and tell me it's raining? Don't fucking hit me with fucking melodrama and then be like, this is serious, gritty cinema. This is professional wrestling to the bleachers.
Yes.
To the making sure the cheap seats know what's happening down here level articulation.
Well, and also there's a difference between bad melodrama and good melodrama. Like it's these words we're using are not measures of quality. Melodrama does not mean good or bad. It's just the type. You can do it well or you can do it poorly. This movie does it poorly, in my opinion.
I agree. And that's where it's hard to talk about of like, because it's also like, I feel like we're saying things that aren't bad things, but Snyder and straw man Snyder fans, we should just have one straw man Snyder. We should name a guy. His name is fucking Keith. And
Keith, bro, I'm worried about you.
Keith is like, no, it's not. It's not those things. It's serious. This movie should have won Best Picture. Zack Snyder is a genius.
Keith, shut the fuck up, bro. Just shut up.
The fuck up. So, any other thoughts on that kind of broad? I feel like we've talked about Batman. We've talked about the opening.
Yeah, no. Then we move on to the Middle East sequence, which this is one of those where in a vacuum, this sequence is fine. This feels like a sequence out of Man of Steel, you know?
Right.
It's relatively well done. You know, it's very Zack Snyder, but not in a bad way. And you get Jimmy Olsen is a CIA agent.
It's, I believe, is still a big jacked dude, which it's once again another strike. This is not in the theatrical. Jimmy Olsen, this man is not revealed to be Jimmy Olsen in the theatrical. That is in the ultimate cut. But like the idea that it's a very Zack Snyder thing of like, oh, Jimmy Olsen's a big jacked dude here. Like everyone's a big jacked dude.
This guy who plays Jimmy Olsen, major recurring character in Smallville season 7.
I thought he looked familiar, though I wouldn't know him from that. Or though I did watch season 7.
He dates Lois. He's like the head of the Daily Planet. And then they come back from strike and the writers decide they're done with him. And they make his character become something that he wasn't. And I can't wait till you see it, man. It's so stupid.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that sequence is fine. Let's see what else we got. Superman.
What
seems
is
like Superman
Lois
kills
doing?
freely. What? Go ahead.
Right. What's Lois Lane doing in this movie? There's no, and you're a big Lois Lane fan.
Lois is my favorite character in Superman.
Dirty in this movie.
I mean, I think she probably fares better than she did in the last one, but it's the same shit where it's like she just doesn't get to be fun. She doesn't get to be fun. Lois should be fun. Poor Amy Adams is giving her all here, and she
I
just
would
has nothing.
love to see Amy Adams get a real crack at like His Girl Friday, Lois Lane.
Yeah. No, that's not what.
Yeah,
it is.
her only thing here is to just mope about her superhero boyfriend,
Right, and then learn about Bullet. The Bullet came from learn shit that we already knew like 40 minutes ago.
Right, and then. So the scene that struck me with her is the bathtub scene, right? She's in the bathtub, kind of they're processing this thing that happened to them in the Middle East. Clark comes home and she's like, this is very serious. Clark, I'm here to be the bummer. And he's like, I was going to make you dinner. And it's still, and it's, I understand. I do not think, not that she's visibly naked in the scene, but like it's meant to be a sexy, or is it? She's naked in a bathtub. I'm trying to process.
He can't not try to make it sexy.
So this is a very common, for lack of a better word, motif in visual, storytelling of naked in water is sort of a rebirth or a washing and cleansing of something traumatic. It's frequently used, and it's still like, fuck, Amy Adams is hot, huh? It's a Michael Bay level. It's I feel like people who really like Zack Snyder would be like, Michael Bay is bad. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. He can't not be like, fuck.
The
hot.
difference is Michael Bay has the good sense to throw in a joke once in a while.
Yes.
I have a note here. 40 minutes in, no jokes. That was a note that I made. And and then the next note says, more like Boar Man versus Slog Man, Dawn of Nap Time. Hey. Oh.
Let's see here.
Okay, so
Lex Luthor. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lex Luthor.
I was ready to move on to Lex Luthor. If you're not,
no, let's do it.
So Jesse Eisenberg is here as Lex Luthor. He's introduced as sort of a Mark Zuckerberg like, or a tech bro like character, which is, I think, I think that is a perfectly valid route to go, especially in 2016, where these tech bro style guys are all over the media. And so like to look at Lex Luthor through that lens absolutely makes sense. I think Jesse Eisenberg is perfectly good casting here as this. I think they're certainly playing off of his Social Network role.
Right.
And maybe trying to differentiate from that.
I think that's where he went.
Here.
He went to outer space with it because he was like, I can't just do Zuck again. I got to do.
And I also feel there is something in these movies where, and I don't know what what Keith thinks of him in this movie, but like I do feel crazy is good. Crazy it wins Oscars, like Lex Luthor is crazy in this movie, and it's bad. He monologues constantly, and Eisenberg's good. I think he's a very good actor. It's bad here, and I don't like it. I don't like what he's doing here. I don't like it, and I wish he would stop.
I'm kind of like, at least it's something.
Devils don't come from the ground beneath us; they come from the sky. You like that? You like that, Zach?
It's more. It's more out of like a Schumacher. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's something. So much of this movie is nothing, and it is something.
It is these moments where during this movie frequently, I am somewhere else.
Yeah.
When Eisenberg is here, I'm back in the movie at least.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm okay. All right. He's doing things.
I will also say it's not, sorry, Keith, like the fact that I'm going elsewhere when I'm watching this movie, that's not because it's like boring and I don't get it. It is boring. It's massively boring. Don't get me wrong, but it's not because it's big and long and that's prestige and I don't fucking, I'm too dumb for fucking. And now I sound offensive. I don't have to defend myself to fucking Keith.
Yeah. I would say Eisenberg is similar to Affleck. Actually, the whole cast, where it's like you feel sorry for them. You're like, you are good.
And there's good work here. I guess this is as good a point as any to pivot into. There's good stuff here. It doesn't all come together. No. It's a little Dark Knight Rises.
You go ahead.
Feels like a plate of Thanksgiving dinner. It's all mashed together, but the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and the turkey, it's all touching each other on the plate, but it's all like people make sandwiches out of that and they just cram it all onto a sandwich, and it's all disparate and it's all different and it's all a little weird, but it doesn't all like necessarily congeal, but once it's all together, it's great. This feels like we got a T-bone steak and a scoop of ice cream and
but there's only enough for one person at the table.
Yes. Zack Snyder specifically. And Keith.
These actors are so wasted. Poor Henry Cavill would have been a perfectly good Superman if given the material for it.
I would be perfectly game for a Henry Cavill Superman that just ignored, just never mind.
He's just so wasted, specifically in this movie. I've already touched on it. He just spins his wheels for the whole movie and then gets beat up by a human and then dies.
He has no fucking story here. There's no story for him here. And the movie is bored of him. That's not a great. He's the lead title marquee character. Or sorry, he still comes second to Batman.
Question, Brian.
Yeah.
What is Lex Luthor's master plan in this movie?
Don't put a gun to my head for that. I can't fucking. The wiki is honestly the closest I've come so far to like kind of grokking what he's doing.
It seems like his plan was to try to kill Superman. So he manipulates Batman into wanting to kill Superman.
Right.
Which first of all seems unnecessary since Lex Luthor himself has the kryptonite.
Right.
Why do you need Batman for it?
Why do you need Batman?
So that's the first part. Secondly, if your goal was to get Batman to kill Superman, why would you kidnap Lois Lane and try to get Superman to kill Batman? How does that help?
How does that
plan?
Fuck.
Because he's going to come after Batman anyway, because he told him, don't put your fucking light up there. I'll come back. Like, why do you take that extra step?
Right. And this isn't like Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, where we've talked about like, we've talked about the master plan not making sense. Because once again, Nolan's dangling some keys and like, don't even look at that. Don't even look at that. Right, Snyder's making us look at it.
You have to dwell.
If this movie was 80 minutes, it might be less of a fucking pain in the ass.
They just needed to pick one reason for them to fight and go with it instead of throwing all these. And then if they could roughly fight, I don't know, 45 minutes into the movie. Right. Yeah.
That'd be great. Maybe one fight and then maybe a second one. And then maybe they were like, we're on the same team. That'd all be good. I have an additional thought here. Alfred is what is that man's name? Jeremy Irons is Alfred here. Perfectly fine. Fine. I think he'd be a great Alfred in a good movie.
Yeah, him and Affleck would have been great together in a solo Batman movie.
Let's see.
I really like the. Have we gotten to the party scene yet?
I have here in the Wikipedia. Why don't I do that next?
Okay.
Bruce attends a gala at LexCorp to steal encrypted data from the company's mainframe, but antiques dealer Diana Prince steals it first. She returns it to Bruce. While decrypting the drive, Bruce dreams of a post-apocalyptic world where he leads rebels against an evil Superman. He is awakened by an unidentified person appearing through a portal who tells him that Lois Lane is the key and urges him to find the others before vanishing. The decrypted drive reveals Luthor's files on several meta-humans across the globe. One is Diana, who appears in a photo from World War I. Wayne contemplates weaponizing the kryptonite to go to war with Superman. Oh, God, so much. That's one little paragraph. That's another hour of this fucking movie.
The first moment of levity in the movie, and I actually really like it, is Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent meet at the party. And
yes.
Ben Affleck's first line to him is, he's walking over and he kind of glances because a pretty girl walks by and he goes, "Pretty girl, bad habit. Don't quote me." It's great.
It's
right.
good.
It was like
I'm not
in
mad at Affleck in this movie.
Desert island, and like a drop of water came from the sky.
Yes.
That's
the thing.
The line about Gotham. Maybe it's the Gotham City, and me. You know, we've had a bad experience with freaks dressed like clowns. Okay, Batman, guy who dresses like Bat.
It's still pretty good. But
it is. No, it's good.
I still think it's good.
I want more of
Affleck, that. People were mad when Affleck was cast. It was, and I understand it's a little bit of a weird thing. Affleck not at all the problem in this movie.
No, and I think the people who were mad that he was cast are probably the biggest defenders in this fucking movie.
You're probably right. I do think there was a universe where we were going to get a written, directed, starring Batman movie, or a Ben Affleck Batman movie, and I would have been interested to see that. I think he would have brought in his guys, though I think his guys did a pass of this script, and this is still where we are.
I think Chris Terrio's his guy.
Oh, okay. That sucks. That sucks.
Well, he was just coming off of Argo.
Right.
Before Rise of Skywalker.
So I remember that was like my one lone thing of like, I think all three of Affleck's directorial efforts so far have been good. And so there was a bit in the media of like Affleck sent his guys the script and they're doing a draft. Yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe that's a good sign.
No, me too. Yeah. Look, it's hard to give any screenwriter credit, good or bad, for these kinds of movies because you have no idea. They're not in control of what's being put on the screen. Yeah. So, you know, he co-wrote this. He co-wrote Rise of Skywalker. What's wrong with both of those movies may have nothing to do with him. So.
It's weird. I think, especially when, once again, movies, for most people, are what happens in the movie. It's weird to understand the screenwriting is an element of the movie, like photography, like music. It's more a director blending these elements and guiding these elements more than the individual work of one of these people.
Right. And it's not like he got to write it from scratch, his own idea. You know, he came in and Snyder's like, "This is what we're doing. Can you help me make it better?" And he's like, "Fuck, okay."
A good writer might come in and just be like, "Fuck, I did what I fucking could, man. I got paid. I did what I fucking could." So we don't. There was a thing going around with Madam Web. Of these are two guys who wrote Madam Web, also wrote Morbius and like Gods of Egypt. People were wondering like, how do these guys keep getting work for these terrible movies? And they probably take notes well and are pleasant to work with, and screenwriting isn't that important of a job in movies.
And they turn shit in on time. They're pleasant to work with. They're professional.
that shit matters so much more than if the script is good. And then even if it is, it doesn't, by the end of the day, like the movie, I've read scripts that I've really enjoyed and didn't end up liking the movie. It's not actually that relevant most of the time, and vice versa. Dark Knight Rises is not a fucking pitch perfect script.
I mean, Jaws didn't have a script.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's an exaggeration, but they were.
Neither did the Fugitive. Fugitive, they.
Oh yeah, Fugitive was
winging a lot of that. Ghostbusters is a perfect movie. No fucking script.
Okay, so after the party sequence where whatever Batman does his spycraft or whatever that shit, we get a really long montage of Superman sort of saving people and news clips, and it's basically all setting up the state of the world and, you know, can we trust Superman? What does he mean? This, that, the movie could have started with this montage and we wouldn't have missed anything, Brian.
Yes.
Why is this montage happening an hour plus into the movie? What are we doing?
I don't know. We're being serious.
And again, in a vacuum, this is a well done montage. This is a well done little montage here.
Yeah.
I dare say he's good at montages. But
that's probably
should have been at the beginning of the movie.
He's a music video guy.
This could have been at the beginning of the movie. And we could have cut out pretty much everything else that happened up until now. I don't know much difference would have been made.
Start it now. Literally, I think you could have excised the first hour we just watched and just started now, and it would be just as sensical.
Yeah, you could start this movie almost any point in the movie. Because nothing builds until the last hour or whatever. Like, nothing is building on top of the stuff that came before.
I mean, I think you nailed it that Dark Knight Rises is too much, arguably, in a movie we really like. That's 10 movies worth of, like, plotting.
Yeah.
You could two-part that movie. I'm glad they didn't, but you could have. This doesn't have enough for one.
No, yeah, exactly. I that was one of my notes. At the end of the party scene, I wrote, this is 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes into a Chris Nolan movie.
Yes.
We're an hour into this movie. We are 10 minutes into a Chris Nolan movie.
Yes. And I think this is the inherent problem. I mentioned it up top a bit, where this movie exists to put pieces on the board for other projects and to advertise other projects, not tell a story.
Right.
There's no story here. I'm not saying things don't happen. I'm not saying there isn't, but I mean, things barely happen. But there's no Batman and Superman kind of fight. That's the story. and it takes 3 fucking hours.
Right. Here's an example. We get a scene of Superman reading an article about Batman. When prisoners have the Batman brand, they get killed in prison. The next scene is a guy in prison saying to the guards, hey, you got to put me in a private cell because I have this, and that means I'm going to get killed. We don't need both those scenes.
No,
we don't need both those scenes. They're doing the same thing. They're giving us the same piece of information. There's nothing gained by having both of them. Right. By the way, this prison shivving plot line, I don't need that in my Batman v Superman movie that little kids are going to go see.
I don't fucking.
Just like I don't need the sex trafficking and whatnot.
Yeah, which is earlier. But it doesn't make it seem more mature to me. It seems more like the kind of stuff I wanted when I was 17. This movie's what I thought a Batman movie should be when I was 17. And not in a good way. Also, I think it's implied that Lex Luthor is behind the shivving of this certain prisoner for some reason. Oh, you've gone way deeper than I was able to get myself into. I'm not even 100% confident I remember a shivving scene, dude.
Oh, a guy gets shivved in prison.
I don't fucking remember it. God, I hate this movie.
Here's a note I have. Gal Gadot and Affleck are good together. They have heat.
Yes. Yes.
Much more
it
than
is good.
Lois and Clark have heat.
Correct.
In this movie.
It's Wonder Woman has some significant play in this movie called Batman v Superman.
Yes.
It's of course the first Wonder Woman movie would go on to be very successful. The sequel less so, though that was pandemic era. I believe that came simultaneously out on HBO Max, which maybe hurt it a little bit. Either way, Wonder Woman 3 appears to not be happening as they kind of reset the universe. But there was some good stuff there. You have not seen Wonder Woman, right?
I haven't. It was one of those things where I had been burned so many times I missed the good one.
Yeah,
because
it's.
I saw Batman v Superman. I saw Suicide Squad, and then I was like, I'm out on Wonder Woman. I'm done. But everyone loved it.
I get it. I would get. It's been a while since I've seen it, but at the time, and probably hopefully still now, hearty thumbs up. I think it's pretty good. I think it's very.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. It's very like just do Donner Superman. But
great. I like Donner Superman.
Great, and it's Chris Pine's in it, just being charming. I give it a hearty thumbs up. It's got the same third act problems that all these fucking movies do, but really good. She's really good in it.
Okay.
It's do you remember Gal Gadot's Imagine video?
No.
This was during the pandemic where Zach is nodding no. Okay, so this is for posterity for anybody in the future listening to this. Gal Gadot during the lockdowns of the COVID pandemic released a video, and it was her and a bunch of celebrities singing Imagine by John Lennon. And it's famously kind of a cringy fucking thing of like, this is awful. Why did you all do this? Half the celebrities are like, I don't know, they were just asked to sing a little bit of it as they get cut through it. There's varying levels of like, what is this? Someone else asked me to do it, and sure, I'm at home.
Right.
I have not made it through the entire thing. I have not been able to make it through the entire thing. It's that level of cringy. However, the real striking moment is that it opens with Gal Gadot, phone screen, the full TikTok kind of just vertical thing. She's like, it's day 7 of lockdown.
Oh. Oh man, how ignorant we were.
Guys, there's a lot of people listening who know what I'm talking about right now and may not remember that was 7 days into.
It's gonna
Gal
be gone.
Gadot had been home for 1 week.
It's gonna be gone by the spring.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I do truly remember being like, oh, we'll still be able to have like our Halloween party.
It was just like, okay, Tenet's going to come out a couple weeks later. Okay, right. Tenet's going to come out a couple weeks after that. Okay, Tenet's going to come out.
It's oh god, we can't do a pandemic chat. I forget postmortem. We took a break, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna read the next like paragraph of the wiki so they'll bring us in cleanly. And then Zach reminded we haven't talked about the apocalyptic sequence. Zach, I don't want to.
You made a
I don't want to.
I feel like the robot from Revenge of the Sith should pop up and be like, he's lost the will to live.
It's and I think you're right. You mentioned this up top, like, oh, I'd watch this fucking movie. This is where, like, I don't mind Zack Snyder.
Right.
Well, he's
teasing us with scenes from a better movie. Like,
yes, which I think Snyder wanted to. This whole thing is like, and Justice League, the Snyder Cut, alluded to this, because it also has another one of fucking these of like, I want to make this movie, post-apocalyptic superheroes. And yeah, that'd be cool. But like, also, you're not gonna get to. That's not gonna happen. The Warner Brothers are never gonna be like, yeah, cool, great.
I mean, I wish they did. I would so much rather see that
too.
movie. I would that's way more in his wheelhouse than this.
Which it's like, it feels like Snyder clearly would rather make this movie. That's why it's here. It is like, wouldn't this be cool? Don't you want to see this? Yeah, not if I have to like ever watch this movie again. To get that, you're going to have to get people passionate about it so that Warner Brothers is like, okay, we haven't even gotten a Batman Beyond movie because it's a little too far out of the like zone. You're not getting this without passionate fan support, and you wrapped it up in this, which no one saw a second time.
There's a reason Marvel doesn't put their post-credit stingers in the middle of the movie.
In the middle of the movie. Though, goddamn, I would give a little bit of respect if after the credits of this movie, there was a 15-minute post-apocalyptic scene. That'd be banger. I'd respect that.
You just don't put it in the middle of the fucking movie.
It doesn't make any... And like, it's... So we know in the world, like, you want to build towards that movie, but in the vacuum, it's like, what the fuck is this doing here? This is nothing. This is a dream sequence. This is nothing. This isn't happening. It's so you believe that Superman is one day is a danger and is going to potentially threaten or destroy the world. We don't need a 15 to 18 minute sequence visualizing that, because you've said it to camera borderline 6 fucking times in the last hour.
I think it's like a 5-minute sequence, but it feels like a 18 minutes.
It just gets longer every time I say it. It'll be 45 minutes the next time I say it.
I'm wondering, why does Batman need a trench coat? What is he concealing?
And I get it, right? It's yeah. If you haven't seen the movie, you were smarter than us. He's still wearing the Batman costume, but he's in a trench coat, and that is a thing in the comics. Damian Wayne specifically, when he becomes Batman, which is implied in sort of like flash forwards, his Batman costume will be a cool noirish trench coat over the cowl. And I do think on a goofy visual level, it is cool looking. But then, see, you said earlier the don't piss on my leg. Don't then tell me this is a serious fucking like movie,
right, yeah.
A serious drama about fucking, and then give me this Wachowski ass anime shit. Like,
when I made the joke about the trench coat, this is more of like the Dark Knight Rises type of nitpick. Like, I actually love the trench coat. I'm just making a joke that doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah, but this is what I want. This is a comic book superhero movie. Give me shit like that. Feed it to me. I love it.
Yeah, you should have just made this movie, and I'm sure he wanted to.
Now, granted, it is a post-apocalyptic world, but Batman does shoot a lot of people with guns in this sequence.
I think there is an element here of, this is someone else's fucking take, not mine, of seeing what he has become and what he's done to survive in this world, that he is now just using guns rampantly.
Okay, yeah, that's a good call. Yep. No,
I don't think it's well done, but I do think that's kind of the point.
Right. That is in the text, though. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's good.
Yeah. That's...
Shoots a lot of people. Shoots a lot of people.
We do see there is some, for a series that is absolutely just fucking cobbled together. Those bugs, it was kind of funny. Like, oh, we'll see those in Justice League. Those bug guys. We'll see those.
It would have been more effective, though, if he made a point of what have I become kind of being a beat
and this is,
in that sequence.
And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where I wonder if that Metropolis, like Man of Steel climax scene would be better utilized seeing Batman in the normal, like the normal vanilla Batman.
Right.
And like
then we see what he's become. Yeah. Right. That's like
make what he's become more textual.
yeah.
Yeah. I just think script wise that would be stronger.
Or when he shoots people, it's not like super badass and cool.
It's so that's the thing. The stuff like is cool. It is cool, but it's cool. And I keep saying music video, and that's really the way I mean it. Of like, it's all just.
This is like if the director of John Wick was like, "We're trying to show violence, how terrible it is, and the real consequences." It's like, no, you're not. Shut up. No, you're not.
Right.
Shut the fuck up.
It's, Keith. And once again, to be clear, we've hit it a bunch of times. There's nothing wrong with cool violence. We love cool violence. I love John Wick. It's not.
But the only way I can enjoy violence like that is if there's no touch of reality to it, right? Because once you start making reality a part of it, then I start going, ew, no, violence is really not actually fun in reality. So what are you doing?
This is where I have a tangent here, but just speaking of violence, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was on TV, and I watched a little bit of it. A movie that is good, a good movie. It's Quentin Tarantino, of course. It's good at the barest minimum level. That ending is a moment of like shocking punctual violence, right? And my wife and I left that theater not vibing with it. And I understand everyone kind of loves it. It's basically imagine the Manson family who murder Shannon Tate. What if Brad Pitt was there and punched the shit out of teenagers to death? And like, I don't know. I'm willing to be wrong on it, but like, I felt grody about it and not in a fun, cool way. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. I don't know. It's a great movie. It is, I believe, fully in the canon of a great movie. But
everything you're saying is right, and also I loved it. Like I get it. I walked out of the theater like, ooh, I don't know, that's kind of gross, but it worked so fucking well on me.
I get it. It was funny my parents saw it. My parents loved the movie. And I just remember being in high school and wanting to see Pulp Fiction. And my dad being like, that movie is too violent. No. and being like, and I was bringing up that like thing of like, I don't know, the like sudden violence at the end. I just didn't vibe with it. I felt really icky about it. And my parents just nonchalantly was like, "Oh, we loved it." What the fuck is this? Pulp Fiction's not that violent. It's violent. Don't get me wrong, but all right.
Dream sequence, dream sequence, good-ish, but completely lifts out of the movie.
Of course, it'd be. I mean, good-ish in the way of like if this was a 5-minute YouTube video of like, what if he got to make this Batman movie? Huh? I'm like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So a widely publicized congressional hearing led by Finch is Holly Hunter, which is kind of the classic like cast good and then this will seem legit. She's not quite as big of a name, but like it feels like we're trying to stack this cast
Oscar
up
winner, right?
Yeah. Good here, but like not doing anything crazy. Giving this the exact amount of effort it deserves. She's getting probably a pretty good paycheck for it. It's coming to work. So, led by Finch, is held to question Superman's actions against Zod. That sentence there is being scenes throughout this movie. It's only coming up now because it's a lot of little scenes that basically add up to this. Okay, so a bomb smuggled in by Luthor detonates, killing everyone present except Superman. I'm just going to finish the thing. Superman blames himself for not detecting it in time and self-imposes exile. In response, Batman breaks into LexCorp and steals the kryptonite. He builds a powered exoskeleton, a kryptonite grenade launcher, and a kryptonite-tipped spear. Meanwhile, Luthor enters the Kryptonian ship and accesses a vast database of technology. So, Luthor smuggles in the bomb. I don't know how much of this is in the theatrical. But there is a guy in a wheelchair. I believe he was injured by Superman, I guess, in the Zod battle.
He's the guy who Batman pulls out under the rubble.
Oh, is that him? Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But his whole thing, he's like delivering it directly to camera, is like, I lost my dick! My dick is gone! My bitch wife left me because I lost my dick! I'm no longer a man! My dick is gone! Superman! And yeah, that's Zack fucking Snyder, right? If I lost my dick, I'm not saying that would not radically change and be a weird existential crisis I went through. Just like the same way you lose a finger, except worse, because it's your dick. It's the element of like, my wife left me because I'm no longer a man, is the most like, I feel like we're seeing like shit dude bro elements here shining through that Snyder specifically appeals to. Is that anything? Is that?
Oh no, totally. You're 100% right. Yeah.
And like, that's a radically, I feel like, is direct to camera for a specific audience for this movie. And it bothers me. And because he lost his dick, he smuggles in a bomb and kills everyone in the Capitol.
Well, I don't think he doesn't know.
Got it.
He's going in there to talk shit about Superman. But Lex Luthor's like, hey, here's this shiny new wheelchair for you. And the guy's like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I lost my dick, but I got this now. My dick's gone, but I got a cool wheelchair. How do you think about that now, bitch wife? It's everything is so, it all ties to Jimmy Olsen is a big strong dude now. And like there's a very toxic masculinity gets thrown around very like willy-nilly, I think. But like there's an element of masculinity here that I would not call healthy.
Why does he why does Lex blow up the Congress thing? I mean, he wants to kill that senator, I guess, but that would have been a lot easier just
Superman,
to kill
more heat on Superman?
I guess. Oh yeah, so Batman is more angry and wants to kill him.
But
then
to be clear,
starts working out more in an absurd vanity workout montage where he's like,
it's all masculine. Here we go, masculine montage. Big strong guys. Look at the muscles. Yeah, it's
laughable.
Yeah,
it is like a Rocky training sequence minus the self-awareness. What was I going to say?
I have a thought on that. If
go ahead.
So there's something to, just speaking of toxic masculinity and men talking about comic book movies on the internet. Of
Keith, shut up.
Keith, shut the fuck up. So There are we discussed like Lois Lane earlier, and it's not the worst example in the world of being a little fetishistic in filming women. If anything, in this movie is not hot at all. There's no sexuality in this movie whatsoever,
save for a Wonder Woman sequence here or there.
Right. But sometimes when talking about just the male gaze in movies and the way we film women in a way to be appealing to men on the internet will sometimes say things like, well, look at all the beefcakes in Marvel movies, huh? And like, look at the big star, look at Affleck being all strong. That's for the ladies. No, it isn't. That's still for you. That's still for dudes.
Yeah,
to be a power fantasy.
Totally.
It's not, you know, it's all still for you. So what I'm saying is you're gay. You're gay.
Hold on. Keith is really upset right now.
Keith is really... Someone hold Keith back, please.
It's okay, Keith.
All right, Keith. It's all right. But yeah, no, the big training montage, like, oh, the rippling muscles, still for you. That's for you, big guy. Someone, I know the audience for this show. Someone out there, I hope, listens to this someday. It's like, no.
Affleck's worst scene in the movie is the scene where they put it in the trailer for some reason. It's so bad, where he's arguing with Alfred about killing Superman. He says, if there's a 1% chance, let's treat us an absolute certainty.
Oh, bad. It's so
bad.
It doesn't make any sense. Batman?
No, but it's just...
Read is Batman. And believe me, fidelity to the character of Batman is the least of this movie's fucking problems. But it's bad. It's really bad.
Although that scene does hint at, again, he keeps teasing us with more interesting movies. When he talks about his history in Gotham, it's like, ooh, I want to see that. Where he's like 20 years in Gotham. You know, how many good guys are there? How many stayed that way? I'm like, yeah. Tell me about the good old days when there was story happening.
Yeah, huh? Seems like we started this at the least interesting point.
So when Batman steals the kryptonite from Lex's people, there's a big, boring CGI car chase.
I tuned out entirely. With the Nolan movies, set piece coming, here we go.
Totally. And it's interesting because we talked about how the big Dark Knight car chase is somewhat incomprehensible, but still so exciting. Whereas this is the opposite, where like if you watch it, you're like, okay, I can see what's happening. They're going there, this is happening here, but you're just bored to tears because it's all CGI nonsense.
I'm looking over the rest of the wiki. I never, in both viewings of this movie, I never fully come back from this scene. And like, this is kind of, I have hit my maximum paying attention and I've bounced off. The rest of the movie just happens in front of my eyes.
It's terrible CGI nonsense. And there's no stakes whatsoever, but like that's the whole thing, right? The Batman sequence or in the Dark Knight sequence, the stakes are through the roof.
Yes,
like Harvey Dent's in that truck, the Joker, you know, all this stuff. And here it's like Batman versus some goons who have kryptonite. If he doesn't get it, he'll get it later. It's like, whatever. He actually doesn't get it. He just puts a tracker on their car and tracks them to Lex's house or whatever the fuck.
Hey, everybody. We had some technical difficulties there, but we are back. Okay, so we were talking about the big, boring CGI action sequence set piece here.
Keith pulled the plug on your internet. Keith, to try to end this.
He's done with it.
Yeah, so it's Batman is going after the Lex's goons to steal the kryptonite that is being loaded from the ship, the White Portuguese.
The White Portuguese. I believe the White Portuguese is completely absent from the theatrical version of the movie. I think it is mentioned. I do think it is something there. So it's just even more nothing.
Yeah.
It could be even less than it is. Batman is looking after the White Portuguese, and at some point during this movie, he realizes it's not a person.
It's a ship. I think no one cares. So he's trying to get the kryptonite, and we were talking about in The Dark Knight, when we recapped The Dark Knight, we talked about how incomprehensible parts of that big set piece chase in the middle of that movie are, but how somehow it's still incredibly involving and exciting.
Yes.
And this is the opposite, where like he stages it in a way where I can tell what's happening, but it's so CGI nonsense and the stakes are so nothing that I'm totally bored.
Do you think? Yeah, it's a mix of stakes and then you had mentioned before we had difficulties. Like the stakes are clear, even if the geography of the action scene isn't as clean.
Right.
Like, they're coming after Dent. It's Batman has to this is the opportunity to grab the Joker. That's
look at this real truck flip.
Look at this real truck we're about to flip. Whereas this is not. What are we doing? I don't know.
Batman is fighting goons, disposable goons, to try to get some kryptonite. If he doesn't get it, it's fine. He'll be able to get it another time, which he does.
Right. It reminds me of, there's a bit where a guy has a giant chain machine gun out of the back of a car that, Gotham City goons only seem to be able to get their hands on. It's so different than the world of Christopher Nolan, where, don't get me wrong, the side of a tractor trailer opens up and the Joker has a rocket launcher, but this feels like they're one rocket launcher,
Right, yeah, exactly.
Not a rocket launcher. And their plan really hinges on this rocket launcher that they have, whereas these goons just seem to have got it from Goon Depot.
Well, they're in a video game. It looks like they're in a video game. There's no stakes or anything.
Right.
And then, of course, Superman stops Batman and he gets out. And this is where he's like, next time your light shines in the sky, don't show up. And we get the really good line. I'm doing air quotes.
The famous one.
Do you bleed? You will. Tell me, do you bleed? You will. Which is not something someone says when they're like, I have to kill this guy for the good of the planet.
Right.
Not like, I'm going to
especially someone who just showed you, who was like, hey, I'm letting you fucking go. Batman. Basically what Superman says here is that Batman's dead. He died right here. Knock it off.
Yeah. Do you bleed? You will.
So why doesn't Superman just ping him in the forehead and just fucking kill him? I was thinking we talked about how man, they should really clash earlier. There should be a scene here, right? I understand there is an issue here that what can Batman do to Superman? But I don't know. I feel like there should be a beat.
We need a beat of how helpless Batman is, really.
That'd be great. Actually, yeah, you're right. So we should get a beat here where man, I am no fucking match. And Superman's like, get the fuck off of me.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get your truck tire training montage.
You're right.
What's the point of the training montage? He's just putting on a big suit.
You're just putting on a big suit with the magic rock that makes Superman not good no more.
I'm not sure what good that metal suit is doing him, by the way, when he's fighting Superman.
It's right. It's you just don't understand the real comics, Zach.
Canon. It's in the canon.
Around this, Zack Snyder started using the phrase "the real canon," the true
canon. The true canon.
Fuck does that mean, Zach? What the fuck does that mean,
Ryan,
Zach?
You would know if you knew the true canon.
That's it. These are cheap fucking magazines for little boys. That's the true canon. And you were an adult little boy. I hate this movie. I hate it. I just hate it, dude. All right, should we move on? We have 3 paragraphs left.
Yeah, let's finish.
I feel like I've said most of things. So the rest is what's left is just the plot. Luthor lures Superman out of exile by kidnapping Martha Kent. Martha Kent is Diane Lane again from Man of Steel. She's basically taken over the Pa Kent role of like, I'm going to monologue at you about doing the right thing, or rather more like, nah, don't get fucking involved with this shit. Hey, you don't know shit.
He shows up at the Kent farm in his Superman suit. Like, what are you doing, man? Just
Superman keeps going to this fucking little house, huh? So we do get a ghost dad. I don't quite remember where that is. That's earlier.
No, yeah,
right?
It's after the fucking bombing at Congress, and he's like, I couldn't even see it. I didn't even see that he had that bomb. It's because I'm too focused on you, Lois. Now I need to walk to the North Pole. What is with Superman in these movies? All the Superman movies. Whenever he's going through a rough time, he walks to the North Pole.
And that's a cool monolithic image, don't get me wrong. And it's fine. It's not inherently bad to have your movie entirely staked on monolithic images, but boy howdy, I've seen it done better.
Well, in Superman 2, it makes sense that he's walking there because he doesn't have his powers anymore.
Right. It's going to take him a bit to walk to his house.
This guy doing?
You just want to go to like a ski slope? No, it has to be the Arctic.
I'm going to walk to the Fortress of Solitude and not go in and see a ghost of my dad, and then nothing's really going to change.
It's to say this movie's good is so fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid. Okay. So Lex kidnaps Martha Kent, Clark's adopted mother, and Lois, who pushes off the LexCorp building. Superman saves Lois and confronts Luthor, who reveals that the distrust between Batman and Superman was manipulated. Luthor demands that he kill Batman in exchange for Martha's life. Superman tries to explain this to Batman, who instead attacks and eventually subdues him using kryptonite gas. As Batman prepares to deal the final blow using the spear, Superman pleads with him to save Martha, the same name as Batman's mom.
Hold on, we can't get into that quite yet. We have to take a step back. Yeah. Okay, finish the paragraph.
Let me finish. Batman hesitates in confusion, and Lois arrives and explains what Superman meant. Coming to his senses, Batman locates and rescues Martha.
Okay. So we get the scene. Lex pushes Lois off the building. Superman catches her. They have a little moment. Then he goes up to face Luthor. And Luthor says, I have your mom. You have to go fight Batman. I'm in control. And it's this bit. Finally, after 2 hours of wheel spinning, we're about to get the showdown of the century.
Here it is.
Batman
it
v
is.
Superman. We've been building towards this. Finally, this movie has momentum. And what do? We cut away to the Wonder Woman email scene. This scene.
Yes, yes. Finally, some showing that other movies are coming.
A lot of people have complained about this scene, but I haven't ever heard anyone talk about the placement. This is one of the biggest momentum, like, cock blocks of all time. This is just a buzz. We are finally heading full steam. You need to go right from that Luther scene to the Batman showdown, man, because the music we're building, the stakes are here. You cannot cut to Wonder Woman opening emails of characters that have nothing to do with any of this.
Did Snyder get final cut? Why was anyone in the fucking cutting room going like, hey, this no, this isn't how movies work.
She can open those emails at almost any other point.
Speaking of post-credit scenes, then would actually be a perfect time to introduce these characters through emails that have nothing to do with this fucking movie.
Or like towards the end of the movie after the climax, she's like, hey, we're going to make a team. Look at this email. I don't know. Anything.
There are so many better places than when something has begun to happen.
It's just baffling. And then, of course, was the conversation like, hey, Marvel's making a lot of money. They did that really smart thing. They built up the universe. Everyone got their own movie over several years. And then they did this big event team up movie. And then, of course, everyone had to go and it made $1 billion trillion. Let's do that. And then Zack Snyder's like, yes. Or an email.
I doubt Warner Brothers was like, let's take this slow and do individual movies and really take our time. I am very confident Warner Brothers was like, we need to get this going now. We're behind. We could be making all this money and it's going to be over.
Sure.
I think maybe, as much people say, like, why didn't you just take your time like Marvel did? Because you're going to be over this. Like we're all over this.
Right. I do think, yes. But I also think there was a middle ground between the slow build that Marvel did and this email.
You could have, don't get me wrong, Marvel did Iron Man, right? And then I think they did Iron Man and Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
And then they had the little crossover there at the very end, including and there was a little post-credit scene of this is what we'd like to do. And everyone was like, yes. And then they did another batch and then they built more towards the thing. You could have greenlit everything and released it all in a couple of summers. Well,
Marvel was dealing with a lot of different companies owning the rights to each character.
Very true.
Disney did not own Marvel when these movies started. Whereas
it's also this hadn't been done before. Nothing like this had been done before.
Whereas Warner Brothers owns all these fucking characters. So just fucking go for it. Yeah, you could have done it so much better than email.
Honestly, you could have just made a Justice League movie and Aquaman's here and you could have just done that. That would be better than this shitty movie with an email. And here's an email attached with fucking a video of Aquaman. And
speaking of times when I knew the movie, the things I was learning about the movie making me more weary about it, when I knew it wasn't going to be good was when that last trailer came out and they revealed not only the ending where Superman and Batman are teaming up, but they revealed Wonder Woman showing up, teaming up with the three of them. They're like, we need to show all the fun stuff. We can't keep any of these twists secret because this movie sucks, and we need to get as many people in to see it opening
You
weekend.
really could watch that third trailer and you have everything. You know everything. Which isn't, sometimes people talk about like trailers of like, well, they spoiled everything in the trailer. Yeah, that's usually because the movie's bad.
Right. Yep.
Don't get me wrong, trailers do show too much, but like good movies, they don't really have to do that. Okay.
Okay, so then we get the
We have
fight.
to talk about we get the fight. Why'd you say that name?
Well, but the fight itself is another
I checked out. It's nothing.
the way he films it is at odds with what we're supposed to feel in the story, because surely we're supposed to feel, I hope Batman can convince, or Superman can convince Batman that they're being tricked and they can go save. Like, you shouldn't be rooting for Batman to kick his ass at this point, but it's filmed in a way that's like, look at Batman kick that alien's
Snyder
ass.
doesn't have another way.
No.
It's
No.
it's sexy violence against an immigrant.
That's 100% what it is.
It is.
He says, "You're not brave. Men are brave." Ugh. Okay, now let's talk about Martha.
It's honestly, I'm so checked out by this point. This movie's not, it's like I have so many things before we get to why did you say that name that like this doesn't even fucking register to me.
No, and I'm pretty sure people were laughing in the theater, if I remember right.
It's bad.
It's bad. It's bad. It's a bad idea, but it's also done poorly. So it's like a bad idea done poorly.
And it is a bad idea. I'm not saying it's not a bad idea, but let's try to be as objective at this as possible. Let's say you and I, of course, brilliant screenwriters who would have done this so much better, nailed it, home runs right out of the park. No questions asked.
No notes, yeah.
If we had been tasked with like, okay, you got to write a Batman Superman script, is it impossible that you and I wouldn't have gone, well, Batman has like parent issues and Martha they both have a mom named Martha. Is it impossible that we would not call attention to that?
No.
That said, this is silly and ridiculous, but I do think like that kernel, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I do think like it's hanging right there.
No, and the idea of him realizing that Superman has a family and a mom and is more of a person, reminds him of his own humanity. It's not bad.
No.
But it doesn't work. It does not work. They don't do it in a way that makes sense, that is believable, that you can watch without laughing.
Not Affleck's fault, not Cavill's fault.
Save Martha! Because that's not something he would say in that moment.
No.
Who's Martha?
How is he supposed to know who the fuck that is?
Yeah,
not her full name, not her address, just
Martha. Wouldn't you say like, Luther's tricking you or something like that?
Right. Or like, he's got my mom.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be the same name. I don't know.
It's some element of like, he's got my mom is actually maybe more powerful than Save Martha. You know, like
Save Martha is just a objectively hilarious line, even out of context. Save Martha is funny, and then following that up with "Why did you say that name?" is like that's too much, man. And then you got Lois shows up. It's his mother, and then because we're idiots, we get a flashback to the flashback we've already seen of his parents dying sexily, and Thomas Wayne saying "Martha."
There is it. It bothers me less. There is nothing that makes my wife bounce off a movie more vocally than show me something we already saw in the fucking movie. If you flash back to something we already saw in the movie, my wife would be like, turn this off.
I love that about her. But also, how would you feel if you flash back to a flashback? It's already a flashback. Why did you say that name?
Why did you say that name?
God help the world if I like marry someone named Martha, because anytime someone says Martha, I'm just gonna yell, "Why did you say that name?"
Honestly, now we need to make that happen. I'm gonna set you up with a Martha.
I'll do it at the wedding.
I don't know anymore.
Zach, do you take Martha? Why did you say that name?
What did you say? Just grabbing the officiant.
I'm gonna send out invitations that are like, save the date for Martha.
You do you like really like that movie? No.
No, I fucking hate it. Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Any other thoughts on that scene? I feel like a lot of people would spend more time on that scene. That's all I have to say about it.
No, it's already been criticized to death. It speaks for itself.
Right. Luther executes his
fight. I think the fight kind of falls flat. I don't think it's a very
It's not good. No. I'm so off this movie by this point.
I do think people, even who don't like this movie, have complimented the fight, but I don't particularly. I don't know. It's just more CGI blah.
It does nothing for nothing. The stakes are nothing. It does nothing for me.
We forgot to mention that. Much like Christopher Nolan, the aspect ratio is changing throughout this movie because he shot some sequences, including that fight, in the IMAX camera. And I defy anyone listening to show me a less effective use of the IMAX camera.
It's really, really. I am a very, very, very casual fan of cinematography. I am not an expert. It is not a. I think you and I both are primarily like. I feel very movie fan expertise on, like, we studied screenwriting. We went to school for screenwriting. We feel pretty confident in criticizing screenwriting. And then I have a lot of interests adjacent to that. Cinematography, I would put very, very high up for me. That said, I am not an expert on it. This is nothing. It's nothing. It's big, empty images of nothing.
Yeah, I can't even tell a difference in the quality of the image, and that's usually the most striking thing with the IMAX camera is like the quality is so much better.
I watched Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises on HBO Max, where it keeps a consistent, letterboxed ratio. It doesn't switch for, even though Batman v Superman, it did aspect ratio flip. I don't know why it would for Snyder and not for Nolan, but oh well. It's fine. But either way, even in the letterboxed, like, IMAX images of Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, the images are so rich and so detailed, you could just fall into those shots.
Yeah.
I wonder, it's a little prettier, I guess, seeing the bigger, like the taller frame. I'm not saying there's not nothing appealing about it.
I wonder, was it a digital IMAX camera? Maybe that's why. Seems, I didn't notice much of a difference. It just seemed like we were just going to square shape. And once again, Justice League has this big thing of, like, we've maintained this 4:3 aspect ratio and you've done nothing with it. There's no reason. Black and white 4:3 aspect ratio.
It's like, okay, You know how, let's take comparatively, The Simpsons to fit modern televisions. They like kind of made it fit into 16:9 aspect ratio. And that's a real problem because there are visual jokes you are missing.
Yeah, they use every inch of the frame to tell jokes.
Every inch of it, as opposed to Friends, where like I'd prefer to watch it as it was originally, but you are not missing anything when they're like, it's fine. It's those shots are just, that's about the scripts and like the writing and like, so you're just framing the actors delivering their lines, right? In the same setups you shoot that apartment had 3 cameras on it and you just shot them doing their little play. And it feels like that. Where there's nothing there's nothing here. You shot this IMAX shot that looks perfectly fine in standard letterbox. I'm sure it was fun on IMAX to see the full IMAX frame.
Why did you say your name?
All right, I'm moving on. I'm just going to read the next 2 paragraphs. And then
I don't have very many notes left.
I don't either. Luther executes his backup plan, unleashing a monster genetically engineered using DNA from both Zod's body and his own. Diana joins Batman and Superman in their fight against the creature. Superman realizes its vulnerability to kryptonite and fatally impales the creature with the kryptonite spear. Superman, already weakened by kryptonite's exposure, is fatally wounded by the creature before it dies. Following Luther's arrest, Batman confronts him in prison, warning him that he will always be watching. Luther gloats that Superman's death has made the world vulnerable to powerful alien threats. A memorial is held for Superman in Metropolis, while Bruce and Diana attend a funeral for Clark, who was declared dead. Martha gives Lois an envelope containing an engagement ring from Clark. Bruce tells Diana he regrets failing Superman and asks for her help in forming a team of metahumans to protect Earth in Superman's absence. As they leave, the dirt atop Clark's coffin levitates. So let's talk about Doomsday.
Yes,
He's the big kind of...
Batman and Superman make up really quickly.
Real quick. Took a long time getting here, and then they're just fine.
Yeah, Batman goes to save Martha.
Why'd you say that name?
Like a really violent.
Yeah.
You know, but this, it's more benign in my mind because it's like Batman beating up thugs, whatever.
Right. That scene's not that. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. And then
I think people really like that one. It's fine.
The last 20 minutes of the movie is a Marvel movie. And I mean that as a compliment, where once again we're seeing a preview of a better movie. And I'm not saying it's a good Marvel movie because the action is not my flavor, but we get basically a Justice League-y kind of Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman are teaming up and Batman's joking a little bit here and there and it's fun and we're having fun.
Right.
I'm like, I could see this working in the movie.
Yeah. I don't have anything to say about it, but yeah. So I just
like that Luther's like spent all this time coming up with this Batman plan to kill Superman. Right. He's like, okay, I guess I'll just create this thing.
Right. So this thing, of course, is modeled after a adaptation of the character of Doomsday, who famously killed Superman in the 90s comics, which it makes sense of like, I don't think Zack Snyder actually really knows comics that well. I think he likes to project
true canon. Excuse me.
He knows the true canon, of course. But like, you know, he's talking about things that are like, and this is, I'm getting fucking way too fucking nerdy, but he talks about like Dark Knight Rises, a singular graphic novel that doesn't exist in the DC canon, right? Death of Superman is what we're doing here, a gimmick book meant to sell more comics and get attention on a flagging sales of comics. It's not a good Superman story. It was just, how do we sell more books? Let's fucking kill him.
Yeah, kill Superman.
Not a good story in the way there are good Superman stories. So Doomsday in this movie is a creature that Lex Luthor creates. Zack Snyder, which is not, Doomsday is an alien in the comics, sure, right? And so Zack Snyder has said, well, this wasn't the real Doomsday.
Oh,
this,
gosh.
Of course, yes. So there's room, and maybe someday we'll do the real Doomsday.
What?
Hey, this Doomsday already did the thing Doomsday did. Doomsday is not a rich, complex character. It's the alien that killed Superman. That's it. What do you want to do with the quote-unquote real Doomsday, my guy?
Were they saving the real Doom? That's why they used such a shitty character design for this Doomsday. Is they were waiting for
just a
the real
Ninja Turtle.
It's bad, Brian. It's like some creature they fought in Lord of the Rings, or like Shrek or something. I don't know. It's bad.
Oh man, this scene's not great. I'm so done with this thing by 3 hours. Like, make this stop.
And that Superman's death would have more weight if
he was in this movie at all.
A, if he was in this movie at all. B, if we had any kind of affinity for any of the characters in this movie. Or C, if we thought there was any chance whatsoever the death was going to be permanent.
If any of this was fucking, like...
The movie ends with he's not really dead. Mm.
Yeah, right. Like, it's just... I mean, if anything, it's true to the comics in that let's kill Superman because we don't know what the fuck to do with him in the next one. I don't...
And then we get this
movie end.
This closing narration by Batman is awful. It's barf.
Awful.
It's barf. We get him talking to Lex in prison, and he says, like, I'm having you transferred to Arkham. I don't know how you can just transfer him to an insane asylum, but he says, I have some friends there waiting for you at Arkham. Are they your friends, Batman?
I am.
Oh, are we losing me again, Brian? Oh, I'm back.
No, you're here. You're back.
Okay.
I'm just scrolling through now the wiki.
Let's get out of here before we lose
a ton of research on this. Yeah, right. Real fast. Adam Driver was almost cast as Dick Grayson. I'm glad we didn't do that.
I heard that.
Adam Driver doesn't need this twice.
Bullet dodged for Adam Driver.
Chris Terrio did this to him already. And, all right, our internet seems to be getting spotty. Maybe we wrap this up. It's been long. It's been a long enough torture. Zach. All right, I'm going to take us out.
I'm here, Brian.
Okay, you're here. I'm going to take us out of here. I hear you.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for listening to the Talent
Keith
Mix.
is trying to sabotage this. Keith, you're too late.
You're too late. We got most of it done. Thank you for listening to the Talent Mix. Thank you for dealing with this therapy session. It didn't take as long as we saw this going anywhere from 45 minutes to 8 hours. Turns out it's just a pretty normal length for one of these shows. Let's see here. Thank you. If you've over the past couple of weeks, we've been asking you to rate on your podcasting app of choice. We are still asking you to do that, but thank you everyone who has. We bumped up on
Keith wants you to. Keith wants me to tell you that you should do it.
You should do it. You should do it. Also, we are putting this out. Keith, we've been mean to Keith all day, and he needs this. Keep doing it. And hey, we don't have a a ton of reviews on Apple Podcasts is the thing. We have 3. They're very nice. They're super kind to us. There are people with podcasts, they have way more. And we don't want to do fake ones. I'm not saying those ones do, but we could do fake ones, and we're not going to do it. So we'd like it if you're enjoying this podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts. I know it's a pain in the ass. You have to make like a fucking account and a username. It really, really, really would help us out. There's a link in the description. We do have a Patreon, and we definitely do the review. Do the review, and if you really, really want to, we do have a Patreon, which does help us pay for the program we use to make this show, yada, yada. I think that's it for us. Oh, also, the show's on YouTube now. It's YouTube podcasts. I'm not doing any extra stuff. So if you'd like to comment and talk to us, I do read comments on there. Feel free to comment on anything we've said, anything you disagree with, anything you do agree with. Or if you like this fucking movie and you want to have a good nature fucking ribbing about it, the YouTube comments are a good place to do that. I think that's it for us. Zach, do you have a question for Batman?
I would like to know, Batman.
How
once
dare
and
you?
For all. That's actually better than I was going to ask him. I was going to ask him if he's a fan of Zack Snyder, but how dare you? That's my question. How dare you, Batman?